And we are live. Good morning, Sue.
Good morning.
How are you? How's your morning?
It's good, a bit grey, but quite good.
It's a bit grey. Do you think it will clear up a little bit in the afternoon?
Maybe.
Maybe, hopefully. Positivity is the key. Okay, so we have a special live podcast. This is the first time we've done this. We've not done many or any video podcasts. So this is a
Oh,
maybe a first time for people to see us live. And so, yeah, so today we're doing a special podcast because it's a kind of seasonal topic we're talking about today.
yes.
We are talking about the Day of the Dead, which is a traditional Mexican celebration, would you say?
I think so, yes. It's quite traditional. Everyone knows about it. It's
Right.
all over the country.
And celebration, I think, is the key term
It is.
because
It's
that's something that I think one of the reasons I wanted to talk about this was that I think it's misunderstood by a lot of people. They
yes.
think it's basically Halloween. It's Mexican Halloween.
Yes, I think also because it's very near Halloween. Halloween is the 31st of
Right.
October and the Day of the Dead is the 2nd of November. So they're very close and people make that connection too.
Right. So I thought today would be a good chance because we're recording this on the 24th of October, and we are both in Mexico, in Mexico City.
Yeah.
And when you go out and about in Mexico City, you see a lot of references to the Day of the Dead. And we're going to talk about some of the symbols that you might see, some of the imagery of the Day of the Dead. So when people think of the Day of the Dead, they will see these images of skulls and candles and flowers. So for that reason, you can understand why people might make the connection between Halloween. It looks like it's just dress up and look scary. But this is what we're going to talk about. It's very kind of different. So you, just to be clear, you are from Mexico, so this is something that you grew up with.
Yes.
And can you tell us a little bit about the origin of this? What is the history behind it?
Um, in a general way, I think what everyone will know is that this comes from our ancestors, the ones
Mhm,
that lived in this continent, the ones that were here,
mhm,
and they looked at death in a very different way. So it wasn't death we in the West. It's the end of life
mhm.
and you miss the person, you'll never see them again. But here there was another feeling about death. Death wasn't the end, and therefore they could come back. And I understand that in the past, people would bury their families or their loved ones under the house, so they would keep
Oh,
them
right.
quite close.
Okay.
So during the day of the death, they could, bring them back in a way, and
Mhm,
they thought this day their souls or whatever they thought their souls were, they could
mhm,
come back, and
mm.
it was a day for celebration because you could see them again. You well, not see them again, but you could be with them again. You could talk to them. They
Right.
would come to visit.
So I think the idea is that they crossed into a different realm, perhaps.
Perhaps.
But it was on this single day of the year they could cross back and
Yes,
be with you. Not physically, you couldn't see them, but in spirit,
in
perhaps.
spirit. Yes. So it's a day for celebration. Is you have a special guest
Right.
and you remember them.
Okay. So Mexico is today broadly, Mexico is a Catholic country.
Mainly, yes.
Um, so how does this connect? How does the Day of the Dead connect with the Catholic religion. In ways they kind of seem very different. Like in traditional Catholic religion, you don't expect somebody to cross back into your realm. So what do you think happened? Why is there a connection between the two?
Well, Catholicism, I think they're spirits, they're
Hmm.
angels. So they are these entities that are from a more elevated realm, let's say. So I think maybe there was a connection there.
Hmm.
And also today was a kind of matched and
Matched
um,
with what?
with the Day of the Dead in Mexico,
So, but
and the
what
day
is
of
the connection?
All
Oh,
Saints Day.
All Saints. So there's All Saints Day and All Souls Day.
Hmm.
So those are the two. So All Saints Day is a day to celebrate all the Catholic saints,
Hmm.
and All Souls Day is to celebrate people who have passed away.
Yes.
Kind of maybe celebrate is the. So I've seen this. I was in Poland, and I was in Poland during the All Souls Day, and Poland is another broadly Catholic country. And my friends who I was visiting, we went to the cemetery, and there was people there with there was candles, there was some people spending time, candles and flowers everywhere. It was a really spectacular thing to see. I think there was even some music. So people go there. They maybe during the day they clean the the graves. They bring flowers, candles, and they kind of spend that evening or some of the time of that evening with the people who had passed away. So it sounds in some ways it's very similar to the Day of the Dead,
It is.
but there's some twists that we will get to, and not I think the imagery is different, but we'll get onto this in a moment. So it's an old tradition in Mexico. Um, why do people celebrate it, and is it something that people celebrate?
It is a celebration. It's memories. I think we celebrate the memories, the good memories,
Hmm.
not about the loss, but about the good times that you had with these people. Many times, grandparents are very important in
Hmm.
Mexican households,
That's true.
grandmothers especially,
Hmm.
because they take care of the kids when both parents have to go out and work, right?
Right.
So the loss of a grandmother can be quite harsh
Hmm.
because they're an important figure. So it's a time to celebrate their lives, the memories, how they were, what they
Hmm.
did. So it's this memory of the people that haven't really left you because they're still pretty much in your heart, I guess.
So let's start looking at some of the imagery. We've got this image here of the skulls, flowers, and candles. We'll talk about these as we go. In fact, we're going to start with the skulls, and we've got two versions here. We on the left we have these kind of ceramic painted, very detailed paintings on these skulls. What would these be used for, or where might you find these?
Um, Markets, traditional markets, especially the ones that sell uh, artisany. The skulls have become more of a pop culture, I think, from
Right.
Mexico. We don't shy away from skulls. They don't impress us that much.
Well, they don't scare you. I
Not
would say
really,
that's kind of
no.
one thing. The skulls in some cultures are to do with Halloween and death, and death is something that people wouldn't want to think about too much. But these skulls, yeah, you would see these all year round,
All year round, yes.
not just around the Day of the Dead. The skulls on the right, however, they are different. What first of all, what are they made of?
They're made of sugar.
Okay. They're made of
You
sugar and they've got some icing
pretty sure.
sugar decorations on them.
And some icing sugar and a little bit of paper that's shiny. Yeah.
Right. And explain these. Do you eat these? They're made of sugar.
They are made of sugar. You could. They're very hard because they need to last for the
Okay.
season. But you buy them. I don't know if you see the foreheads. They have this kind of paper, and
Right. So they've got
yeah.
something along the top.
So you would put names on them. So
Would
you
you
can
put
put
your
names.
name?
You can put your name, or you
Hmm.
can put the name of the people you're remembering. Sometimes in offices, for example, if they are um, participating in this tradition, they will have everyone's name, a skull for everyone there.
Hmm.
It doesn't mean death. It's
Yes.
just being part of the celebration, really.
Okay. Okay. So we have these skulls. And now we're onto these flowers. Now, these flowers are called marigolds,
Hmm.
quite a popular type of flower. What is special about these flowers, would you say?
The marigold has a very strong smell,
Mm-hmm.
and in order for these people that have passed away, for them to come to you, to find their way, it's not easy to come. So
Okay.
in order to find their way, they follow smell. Smell is a very important part of this tradition.
Right.
So the smell of the marigolds will tell these souls, if you like to
Hmm.
call them, where to go.
Right.
So during this weekend, or that week of the Day of the Dead, especially Mexico City
Hmm.
does a lot of this, and there's a lot of marigold, and there's a smell. There's a certain smell to the
Okay.
city, and it's the
So
marigold.
it's the marigold, right? There's a smell to the city, did you say?
The city, kind of almost the whole city
Right.
starts smelling. Yeah,
Yes.
there's a very specific smell. It's not bad smell. It's not necessarily a
Hmm.
fragrant smell. It's a strong smell. So
Right.
yeah.
Okay. Because over the last few weeks, going around, we've seen lots of people selling flowers at markets, but also just even out of the back of a van. Some
Yeah.
people have a lot of flowers, so it's a big thing to make sure that you've got these. And last night we actually had some marigold flavor ice cream.
Yes, that was quite new for me. I had never had
That's
the marigold ice cream, but it was lovely.
no, yeah. So that was an interesting kind of uh, flavor. Very interesting kind of flavor. Quite strong. Not what you would associate with ice cream typically.
No,
So yeah, so the color here, and okay, so let's move on now. Here we can kind of see everything together. So this is an altar,
it is.
altar, altar, and the best way to describe what an altar is that it's a table, maybe a table that you could find at a church or a temple, some kind of religious setting, probably, and important things are placed or displayed on the altar. So here we can see the skulls that we talked about, the little sugar skulls. We can see lots of marigold flowers as well.
Mhm,
And in the very center, there's a frame,
mhm.
picture frame. Why is there a picture frame in the center?
That's where it's for pictures of the loved ones you are remembering.
Right.
So you would put their pictures in there with the flowers, some candles, the skulls,
Hmm.
and food. And you would try to add food that they enjoyed during their lives.
Right.
It's an
Okay. So
offering
food.
to them.
Okay. So this is, I guess, a reward for their journey back to you, perhaps.
It's trying to be, yeah. I always thought about being a good host.
Right.
You
Yes.
have something they like because they are they don't have bodies, they cannot eat.
Mhm.
But the smell of the food, because they can come through the smell of the flowers,
Right.
we believe they can enjoy the smell of the food.
Yes. And it makes it personal to them as well. And something
Exactly, yes.
for them to enjoy when they're with you. Now, if we look at the two skulls at the back, the two black skulls with the candles on the top, is that typical?
No, I think we've it's evolved with time.
Right.
But what you want to do is to make an altar that is beautiful, that is meaningful. And I think everything, if you get to that, the goal of making it beautiful,
Hmm.
anything goes, I think, as long
Right.
as it looks nice. And again, you're welcoming somebody, so you want the best you can find in there.
Okay. So where would you find these? Would you have one in your own home?
An altar,
An altar, yes.
uh, you can make your own altar. I don't think there are altars waiting. It's you put your tables.
Okay.
You can make different levels. I think 7 is the most traditional ones.
Okay, so you can see that there are two levels on this altar.
Yeah, it's not a strict rule.
Right.
Everyone's altar is going to be
You can
different.
be a little bit creative
Yeah, but
with
it's
it.
it's what you got home.
Right.
We don't. It's not like Halloween that you have your special decorations and you
Okay.
keep them. This is you make them every year with
Hmm.
what there is.
Okay. Right. And also, we've seen some of these in very public places.
Yes, the university, for example, has a very big one.
Hmm.
Certain areas in the city also do them. The city center, definitely. Some museums will do it, and they will put their own spin on them.
Right.
Maybe more cultural or more traditional, modern. That also goes. So
Right.
yeah,
I think that's something that's maybe changed. We were going to talk about how things have changed over the years, but I think if you went back 30 years ago, there was a very standard traditional version. But as things have developed, maybe people want to make things look a bit more fancy and um, a bit more decorative or more elaborate. We were in a shopping mall a few days ago, and there was a huge altar in the shopping mall,
yeah,
which was kind of interesting to see. Okay, now there's something at the front here on a plate, and I think we have a better image on the next slide. So this is pan de muerto.
yeah,
So this is bread of death.
yes,
Does that sound right? It's
of the
so
dead.
of the dead. Okay, yes,
Yeah.
okay. And explain to me what is this?
We eat this bread throughout November,
Hmm.
October, and
October,
November.
November, right?
Yes, it's bread. Is the flavor is orange. It's orange flavor.
Okay.
Um, this is a really good mix of cultures because the flavors and the bread in itself, it's not necessarily native.
Hmm.
There's native bread, but this is not necessarily how we make this bread is not.
Right.
But it's the shape that's important.
Yes. Now, what's happening here? What's explain the shape to me?
So, because on the day of the death, what is said is that people would take out the bones of their loved ones out.
Hmm.
That was an invitation, right? So we can't do that today, clearly, and probably once the Catholic Church came, that wasn't a
Yes.
good idea for them. So this is the alternative. So this bread represents those bones. So if you see, it's like a little cross, but that
Okay.
cross is meant to represent the bones.
Right. So that kind of shape that is wide and then narrow and then wide again. That's
Uh-huh.
like a bone, like maybe like a leg bone.
Exactly,
kind of
yes.
thing.
And
Okay.
then on the top would be a little, also a little circle, a little sphere,
Okay.
also part of the bread, and that would represent the skull.
Right. So
So that's
that's
why,
the skull part. Hmm.
that's why it's the bread of the dead is representing the skeleton of the person,
Right.
which was
Okay.
important in the past. Yeah.
And these are only eaten around this time of year.
Yes, they come out earlier each year, but they're
Hmm.
delicious. So no one's angry to have a longer period to enjoy these breads. So they're quite soft. They are a little bit orangey in taste, and they are covered in sugar.
Covered in
Lately,
sugar. So okay. Because whenever I've tried to eat them, my hands are just covered in sugar. It's
yeah,
quite
it's a
messy
little bit of
thing to eat.
butter, and then the sugar sticks. Now you can fill them with um, custard.
Right.
I've seen black ones. Yeah, the
Okay.
bakeries are taking a chance on these breads and making their own versions, I think.
Trying to stand out a little bit.
Yeah,
Okay.
everyone buys them. So yeah, I think bakeries want to have their own versions to sell more. I don't know.
Indeed. Okay. Um, so here we're getting into more of the celebrations. So parades and festivals. Um, Now, an interesting part, maybe we're going to come on to it in a second, but are there parades around this festival in Mexico City? Explain to me, is it
Yeah,
something
now
that
there are.
happens? Now
It
there are, right.
Yeah, it didn't used to happen. I think it's more traditional in the south of the country. They what they do is they go to the cemetery
Hmm.
um to celebrate their death. They clean, they bring
Hmm.
flowers, they stay there. Sometimes they bring music, but it's become a very cultural part of Mexico that the world kind of knows and probably is curious about.
Hmm.
So much so that a movie took this idea of the Day of the Dead and made it into an opening scene
Right. So
parade.
that was a James Bond movie. I think was
It
it
was
Spectre? It might have been
um,
Spectre, the
maybe it's
movie.
yeah, great movie, great visuals, and it was their idea, I think. And
Mm.
in Mexico, we were thinking we don't do that.
We don't do that, but
But it's not a bad idea,
it's not a bad
especially
idea.
for tourism, I think,
So I
and
think
for the
I
locals.
read I think I read somewhere that last year there was about 1 million people gathered in the center of Mexico City for this parade, which
Yeah,
didn't happen traditionally. As you were growing up, there wasn't a big parade in the center of, maybe in small towns around Mexico City, you might, some small towns maybe, but certainly not a grand gathering in the center. But it's a great chance to bring some people together, and I'm sure um, it doesn't do the economy any harm.
it's an artistic expression. I think
Right.
it gives artists a reason to be creative, to think about traditions, to think about how they can express these traditions.
Hmm.
So overall, I don't think it's a bad idea. I understand it's not traditional, as in we haven't done it for long, but
Hmm.
it's clearly a tradition now, and people are expecting it and enjoying it, and yeah, and it's beautiful. It's colorful.
It is
Uh,
colorful, and
yeah.
it's a celebration, and you see people wearing face paint
Yes,
to
that's
look
also
like
quite new.
yeah. So people take the kind of Halloween tradition of dressing up and really kind of make really beautiful costumes. You can see even some people just in the bottom right of the image, they're sitting down on the floor They
Yeah.
have their faces painted. The gentleman on the left at the back, you can see he's got a big traditional sombrero, and you can see he's got his face painted white and dark around the eyes. And interestingly, in this image here, we can see the flowers which we talked about. Obviously, there's the huge skeleton, but the cross at the back, you can see that that's clearly a Catholic cross, but there's bones
Yeah.
kind of represented as well. So that kind of mix of cultures is very clear. And I think this is probably one of the reasons why people have become very familiar with this celebration. So this is a Disney movie called Coco,
Hmm.
and we can see some of the imagery we talked about. We've got the marigolds on the ground here, and I think in the movie the marigolds create the bridge, the physical bridge
Yeah. It's a
between,
nice idea.
yeah, not necessarily the way people think about it in Mexico, but it's a beautiful idea of this kind of you need the marigolds to kind of make it
Cross.
possible for people to come across. And this movie was very, very successful. And one of the key ideas from it was that you need to remember the people who have passed away.
Yeah.
You've got to keep them in your as soon as people stop remembering them, then they are lost. So it's very important for the people who have passed that they are remembered by people in the living world, to
Yes.
keep
No,
this connection.
it's yeah, it's a beautiful way to express what this tradition is, what this way of thinking is. I think they did a great job. It's not it, they added, they made their own representations of
Mhm,
how to use different symbols.
mhm.
But overall, I think they did a fantastic job on expressing what what you should feel
Right.
about this day, and remembering and celebrating those lives and being happy that they can be with you. It's not that you physically feel them, but it's with your heart and your storytelling, and just visually the altars.
Yeah.
It's part of that celebration.
Mhm. The movie, I remember the movie in Japan, it was called Remember Me,
Hmm.
which kind of is a very clear kind of representation of what the movie was about. And I remember seeing the how they made this movie. They did come to Mexico and spent a long time talking to people and trying to understand about the tradition and thinking about how can you take this and represent it in a movie that's really for kids, and it's not a topic that kids are really encouraged to think about very much.
No, no,
But I
because
think it's a
yeah,
beautiful way to introduce this aspect of life
yeah,
to young people. Um, so yes, it's a very interesting aspect of a very interesting aspect of life and how they've managed to introduce it to other people. Um, okay, so that is coming soon, the 2nd of November. Anything else happening on the 2nd of November?
what is happening on the 2nd of
I think
November?
it might be somebody's birthday. I'm not sure.
Yes,
Um,
it is
but
my
yes.
birthday too.
So that's an interesting point for you growing up. Did you have a big celebration on the 2nd of November for the Day of the Dead?
No, I think I, I, I reminded everyone it was more about my birthday than the
Right.
Day of the Dead. Yeah.
That took priority. Okay.
Yes. Yes, I made sure of that.
Right. Well, thank you very much for helping me understand this this celebration. It's something that I'm learning more about. One nice thing about living in another country is you get to learn about different ways of thinking about things. But thank you very much for your time, and I'm sure I'll see you again very soon. Thanks a lot. And thank you everyone for watching. This has been a nice experiment, trying a live stream video podcast. Hopefully we'll do more of these in the future. If you haven't already, please subscribe. There'll be more conversations like this and more videos to help you on your English learning journey. So thank you very much, and I will see you next time.